Okay, Jonathan Morris is a farmer that I heard on Florida Man Radio through the Shannon Burke show. Wow, what a journey. You can find him at premiumorganicmeat.com, premiumorganicmeat.com, 101 North Country Club Road in Lake Mary, Florida. The proprietor of Morris Family Farms, Organic Meats. I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention of where my food was coming from when I go to the grocery store to buy stuff. And I heard you on Shannon Burke's show one day, and you were talking about farming, what you do and everything. And you brought up meat glue. And I was thinking, what the fuck is meat glue? And the more you talked about all of this stuff, it's like, whoa. So every time you were on the radio, I turned the volume up because you're just dropping nuggets of information that the public has no idea that's out there and all of that stuff. And it's like, this is a long, deep rabbit hole of the stuff that they're putting in our food, all of that stuff. So before we really get into it, how long have you been a farmer for? And tell us about your journey of how you started and where it's going and all of that.
I'm a fourth generation farmer. And although back in the 90s when things were really bad farming in South Florida, I've done some other work for the state. I've done some corrections work, some search and seizure work type stuff. But I've been a farmer pretty much my whole life. My great grandpa came over to America, settled in Northern Ohio from Ireland, and had a farm, very successful, 300 acres. My grandpa moved to Florida back in the 20s and lost everything in that first hurricane. So they left Northern Ohio to come down here and grow mangoes because they heard that you could get rich growing mangoes. And they bought land over in Merritt Island. The first year, they lost every tree they had. So he died a mechanic working for the Cape. My dad, after he got out of college, he actually graduated from Rockledge High. And then he started growing sugarcane and pigs down in a little town called Pahokee in the Everglades. And then I was born, grew up on 700,000 acres. It wasn't ours. It was owned by U.S. Sugar, but there was 7 miles from our house to the first paved road. And so that's just, we grew up hunting, fishing, chasing, just what, if you can imagine it, we did it.
Okay.
My dad raised everything from pigs, geese, rabbits, a few cows. So it was a good life. It was out in the middle of nowhere. We went to school, played football, fought, just, normal kids in the country,
right?
Raising up. And then I got married to my wife. I had a college basketball scholarship, and I got hurt in training camp. So I had a Division II offer, full ride. I got hurt right before the season started, lost my scholarship.
Man.
Yeah. So I was big. I was mad. That's kind of what put me into corrections and working for the state and doing private security. And then I got married to my wife. We met, and literally 2 months later, we got married, started having children. We've been married 29 years now. So
nice.
About 7 years into marriage, private security and corrections and max security prison and death row people and chasing inmates down that escape, that kind of stuff, I guess it messes with you a little bit. So my dad was like, you're changing as a human being. You need to come back to the farm. So I came back in the sugar fields and the cornfields, growing sugar cane and corn. And then I started harvesting vegetables for contract harvesters. And that's kind of what set me up for where I am today. So we would start in Homestead, and we would follow the season with crews of migrant workers. And we would start in Homestead, and we'd work our way through Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin. We had to be out of Wisconsin by September 28th because the ground would freeze. And then we'd work our way back south. And so I met a lot of people in a lot of areas. And then I started farming on my own. And I was farming a section of land, which is 635 acres. But I didn't have deep pockets. I just had the money I was making. And we had a couple of hurricanes and a couple of heavy, heavy rains. And I lost everything I had from 2005 to 2006.
Wow.
We went from $1 million in the bank to negative 400,000 in 1 year. I don't believe in bankruptcy. So I set up payments for everybody that I owed, John Deere, the packing house, the seed company, you name it. But back then, I just farmed, and then a harvest crew would come in and harvest, put it on a truck, take it to a packing house, and I'd get a check 90 days later. I was part of what they call big farming. I didn't know the customers. It was insane, but it also gave me an education that we get to talk about on the radio, because we didn't have Publixes where I grew up. We had Winn-Dixies and Foodways and Food Giants.
Right.
We literally would have green beans behind the Winn-Dixie in a field. All right. Winn-Dixie could not buy from our field. In the old days, they did backdoor buying, but then they did away with that because USDA had to get involved and charge everybody and tax everybody. So we would grow green beans. They would go to a packet house. They would go all the way to Chicago. Then they would come back to Atlanta to the distribution center. And then they would go to Lakeland. And then they would come back to Pahokee, Belgrade. So literally 2 weeks after we picked the green beans, they would be in the grocery store. So back then, I didn't understand I didn't understand the knowledge I was getting, but I knew it didn't make sense.
Right.
You know? And it's kind of like God was laying all this out for what my life is leading into, my next chapter. So I have an education just from like learning.
Well, from the experience of it. So basically, you're peeking behind the curtain to see the Wizard of Oz, but there's so much more to it. Oh, and it's not, and this isn't stuff that you could just look up online. These are things that you were experiencing firsthand. Yeah, it's like, okay, this is what they're doing to the food. This is what people are eating. The public has a right to know a lot of this stuff.
Right, but if that's why most packet houses, most feedlots, most slaughterhouses have 0 recording signs, 0 camera signs. You're not allowed to take your phone in because they don't want people to see, take a picture, record the stuff that they do. Like, for instance, in green beans, they all get bleached. They all get a chlorine rinse.
Oh, God.
It's called a bean line. Every commercial green bean that has a USDA stamp on it has been washed in chlorine bleached water. That's just the way it is.
So to people that don't really know exactly what that means, why do they do it, and why is it bad for you?
Well, the reason they do it is because of the process they set up and the way distribution in grocery stores and the big companies control everything. So if you were selling to mom and pop grocery stores and you were picking a green bean out of the field and you rinsed it with cold water, and that's a normal process, dried it, put it in a crate, sold it to a grocery store, and they sold those green beans in the next 3 to 5 days, you would have no problem. But when you pick green beans and they don't get back to the grocery store for 10 days, and then they're at the grocery store anywhere for 5 to 7 days before they go to the customer's house, and then they're in your refrigerator for however long it takes you to eat them, they're going to rot, they're going to mold, they're going to mildew, they're going to grow back, they're going to grow bacteria. So they run them through a chlorine rinse to clean them and sanitize them so they're safe for human consumption. And also they spray so they don't grow mold and bacteria while they're inside the truck driving all over the country.
Okay, well, then that makes sense. That sounds all good. But the bean actually absorbs those chemicals and it gets in there. Yes. And people eat it, and that's not good for them.
And that's
you brought up a good point the other day. I heard you. It was last week, I believe. You were saying that the same company that will label stuff organic also sells non-organic stuff, and you broke it down simply. You're like, well, it's the field next to the one that they're spraying, and some of that spray, the wind blows, some of those chemicals could get on that stuff as well.
Right, it's called drift. Yeah, I mean, the simple word for it is drift. You have particles that are heavy, and you have particles that are light. Some of the lighter particles that stay up in the air, and I'm not talking about like way up in the atmosphere. I'm talking about like at 6-7 foot at level. So when they spray with the high crop or the airplane, even though you're like, oh, it's not even 2 miles an hour of wind, but there's still air movement, still air circulation, the way the earth works. So some of those chemicals that don't settle immediately, they drift over onto other crops. The other thing to get into meat, because that's kind of our thing, we still grow a few vegetables, but we're mainly on meat. The biggest thing I tell people that the proof of the pudding. So the USDA will put out a recall, and they'll recall 7 million pounds of ground beef or something. I'll just throw a number out there.
Okay.
Well, they'll put out like the big labels. And I'm not going to pick on any label because there's no recalls like today to talk about. But let's just say, ground beef at a Piggly Wiggly got recalled. But if you go onto the USDA's website and pull up that recall, it'll have like 37 labels that were affected by the recall. So if they had a batch of cows that they did ground beef on, and it affected 37 labels, that means all 37 labels came from those cows. All right, this is common sense.
Right.
So in those 37 labels, you have Greenwise, you have Annie's Organic, you have, Farm Fresh. So how are commodity recalls affecting organic labels if the organic labels are really organic and really clean? And that's what I try to teach people. It's a shame. You can't trust the grocery stores. You can't trust the labels. The USDA, and they don't hide it. It's just a lot of people don't have the time or the desire to dig through all the crap on the USDA's website or pull their printouts and read them. But we were talking about this earlier when we get ready for the show. Anything you buy that says raised naturally, grown naturally, the USDA's definition of all natural is at some point during the animal's life, a natural occurrence occurred.
Which is it walked on grass, or it was born.
It was born, or it walked. Nothing else naturally has to happen to that animal.
Oh my God. Wow.
And people are like, well, it was raised all natural. No.
It naturally came into the world, and that's about as far as it gets.
Yes.
We're getting ahead of ourselves here. I really want to get this out there. So you started a YouTube channel, and it's picking up steam really quickly. You're getting a lot of views. You're getting some subscribers. I'm going to link your YouTube channel down in the description down below so that people could click on it, and they could check out your stuff and leave comments, ask you questions, things like that. It's just so crazy to me that and there's just so much more to it, and we're not even at the tip of the iceberg on this stuff. There's so many things that I wanted to talk to you about.
While you're looking over that, let me back up real quick. I know.
Okay. All right.
There's so much, right, that I just know and live. So I can't get ahead of people. But one of the best things I think that could have happened to us is we went broke. We lost everything in 2006. My sister lived in Central Florida and said, hey, guys sell corn on the side of the road, tomatoes on the side of the road. You ought to come up here and try to sell whatever corn you have left over and get back on your feet. So we did. That introduced us to some people in Orlando and in Lake Mary, and we started farmers markets. Well, back home, we don't have farmers markets. We just all farm or prison or football. All right. So it was weird to me that people would gather and buy stuff from a farmer. But very quickly, we realized that some of the people at the farmers markets were just wholesalers that were selling to grocery stores and other places. And they were coming into the farmers market, with product of Guatemala, product of Spain, product of.
Yeah, it's not stuff that they're growing themselves. Like, what's stopping people from buying produce at the grocery store and taking it to a farmer's market and selling it themselves? It's how do you know where that stuff comes from? It's like it's an illusion that they grew it themselves. Yes. And that's what they're selling you. And to even further go into that, you got these stores that will sell in the springtime. They'll sell tomato plants. You could grow. Here's a small tomato plant in a tiny little pot. It says it's organic. You can grow your own tomatoes. It doesn't mean it's healthy. It just means that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that they haven't sprayed chemicals on that particular plant. You don't know if it's genetically modified. You don't know anything about it. So are you better off growing your own tomatoes that you paid $6 for a plant, or just buying the same thing that's in a plastic container at the grocery store?
No, if you have the ability to grow your own food, I encourage everybody to grow their own food. As a farmer, I am not threatened by anyone that grows their own food. It actually is going to make you appreciate real farmers more, because once you realize how hard it is to not only grow the plant successfully, yield a crop, know when to harvest that crop, and make sure you harvest it before the squirrels, the raccoons, and the birds realize it's ready. Because you can look at tomatoes on a Tuesday and be like, man, they're going to be ready in 2 days. And then tomorrow you come out and raccoons have eaten half of them because they.
Yeah. That's a problem. That's a problem I have up here. I live up in Lake Tahoe, and it's the elevation it's hard living up here because of how high up we are. And not only that, but we have tree squirrels, we have gray squirrels, we have chipmunks all over the place, bears, bobcats, everything. It's really tough to grow stuff, but we've done pretty well with some things. But it's also a matter of like, okay, well, let's grow tomatoes, but where are we going to get the seeds, and how do we know that this vendor's trusted? You know,
Right.
is it?
You got to do your due diligence. Because there's 4 or 5 big seed companies out there. You know, there's the Burpees, there's Johnny's, there's Rogers. You know, and a lot of people don't know this either. 90% of the seed you buy is not grown in America. So there's a farming circle. Yeah, there's a farming circle in order to make the earth work. So that's why the Ukraine thing, I hate calling it a war because I don't even know if it is a war. The thing with Ukraine and Russia has affected us so much. Parts of Europe, Eastern Europe, Ukraine, they grow seed. They have thousands and thousands of acres of green bean and peas and corn, but none of it's for human consumption. It's all to go to be dried, put into seed, and then shipped to America or shipped to South America, and then people buy it and they sell seed. And then you have farmers who buy seed and mass grow or mass produce crops. You have potato farmers, corn farmers. The majority of your farmers are not variety farmers. So you'll have a guy that grows potatoes or grows green beans, or they grow soy and corn for the mill or for feed or for cereal. There's not a lot of farmers who have, an acre of tomatoes, an acre of eggplant, an acre of squash. They do exist, don't get me wrong. But on the whole, that's not how farming is set up in America. And I tell people get mad at Monsanto and they get mad at this and mad at that. If you go all the way back to Bill Clinton, the North American oh my gosh, my brain died.
Trade actors. Yeah.
Yeah, the North American Free Trade Act, right? That was one of the most communist, worst things they could have ever done to farmers, because that allowed Mexico, Canada, and other countries to start pumping vegetables, animals, meat products, everything into our country without having to live up to our growing standards, our wage standards, our regulations. So the world market is a terrible thing because it costs Americans so much to do something, and then the rest of the world does it however they want to, and they produce it at a third of the price, and then they sell it. So the market drops, the American farmers pay the price. So now you have to introduce subsidies to pay off the American farmers so they can at least break even or make a profit. So the whole circle of farming is broken for the average American. And then they capitalize on labels because they know people want good stuff. They want organic. But the word organic, the label organic, is so watered down. In 2023, the USDA released 8,000 pesticides onto the organic labels.
Whoa. Really?
So there's 8,000 pesticides that are now organic pesticides.
Oh, shit. So they're actually lowering the bar of quality and organic to be, you can pass this off as organic now, is what they're doing.
Right. And the other thing I tell people, and people don't understand this, like I study it because I love it. It's what I do. So if I wanted to be a certified organic farmer, and I will never pay for the certification, it's not worth it. It's $1,700 a year for me to have it. I'm not paying for it. I'm not having the guy come out and inspect me. But in order to get a certification, you have to lay your land fallow for 5 years. For 5 years, they have to come test your soil and do soil samples, and your residual levels or pesticide residual levels have to be below like a 0.05, whatever. So what I tell people is, if you look back to whenever the organic boom happened, the grocery store didn't not have Cheerios for 5 years as they were converted into organics. It just, you walked in one day and you're like, oh, organic Cheerios. So how did they do that so fast on a commercial level? We would have all starved to death while we were waiting on all the commodity commercial farmers to transfer into organic practices. So that's the first thing I tell people. There's no way it happened that fast. It just, the process, USDA's process of organic certification is such a long process that we all would have starved. The grocery stores would have been empty, back 15 years ago, 20 years ago when this organic boom started. And then since then, they've realized we can't feed the world with organics. But if we take the organic label away, the people are going to riot. They want their food to be organic. So we're gonna trick them, and we're gonna have a lot that. So like big farms right now, they can get allotments. So they can pick up the phone, call the USDA, and say, "Hey, we got blight on our farm. We need an allotment number to spray this fungicide. It's not organic." The USDA says, "Yeah, no problem. Here's your number. Go spray." Then they can harvest that, put it into the Cheerios or the Wheaties or the whatever, and they don't put a sign up that says, "Hey, we sprayed this crop." They still sell it as organic, and you as the consumer, you don't know. So
that's pretty scary, and that also makes me I want to bring this up. I've been seeing things circulating online that I'm almost certain it's a Bill Gates thing. Bird flu is a big concern, and their Moderna allegedly has a bird flu vaccine that they're pushing onto cattle ranchers to inject their cattle with to protect them from the bird flu. It's a mRNA vaccine. So how I'm reading this is like, okay, the people who refused the COVID vaccine are now going to have it because of the hamburgers that they're going to be eating in the future here without realizing it. So is that a conspiracy, or is that actually something that's happening?
It's something that is happening. The other thing they're trying to do is they're trying to, just like Roundup ready corn or BT ready corn or soybeans, they're trying to GMO, genetically modify the mRNA DNA code into the seed code. So when you grow, so if you're the farmer that says, "Hey, I'm not shooting my cows, I'm not injecting my cows," no problem. Well, when you buy your feed from the feed company, we'll already have it in the feed that you're buying. So you'll feed it to your cows their whole life. It'll be in their bone structure, their circulation structure, their muscle fibers. It'll be their skeleton. It'll be in every part of the cow. So when you process it and sell the cow, you're still microdosing, your customers. So that's why. Is there any reason right now? Can you give me a good reason why I shouldn't become a vegetarian then at this point? Because the vegetables are worse.
Oh, shit.
The vegetables are worse. You know that fancy, oh my gosh, fortified and enriched is killing people.
Yes. Yeah.
So folic acid does not come from earth. Folate is found in the dirt. It's found in plants. And they're so tricky. They'll put their chemical word so close to the real word that people are like, "Oh, it can't be bad. It's the same thing. It's a B9 vitamin. It's only going to make us stronger and better." But your body cannot process chemical B9. So when you look at bread, pasta, rice, flour, cornmeal, all that stuff that's been fortified and enriched, it's been sprayed and treated with folic acid, right? Just like the fluoride in the water. I honestly believe that our food system is created to make us eventually weaker, stupider, fatter, die quicker, eat more easily to be controlled. Like, you've got to get out of the box. And
we're seeing it happen now. If like you could go online and look at you could hit Google images for people on the beach in the 1970s and 80s.
Yes.
You don't see one overweight person anywhere. Everybody looks healthy. You look at the PE classes that we had when we were kids. You had to climb up a 30-foot rope. Yeah, and it's like they've gotten away from that. People are fatter, they're dumber, and it's
more health issues, more chronic issues. They're passing it on to their children. I don't believe in evolution, but I believe in evolving. Okay. And when you have a 6'3" guy and a 6 foot tall woman, and they come from big farm country places, right? You have big children, and they're going to have big kids, and those big kids have big kids. But when you start introducing weak, fragile, stupid people into I tell people all the time, we're selective breeding at the Morris Family Farms. Right? Like my son JJ married this little bitty girl. We talked about her on the radio. I don't want to talk too much about her, but that is messing up all of the Morris bloodline. Right? And I don't know how she's going to birth JJ's children, but that's for them to work out. But I've got a 15-year-old that's 6'6", 240. None of my children are obese. Now we're obese on the scale according to the CDC, but like for me, I'm 6'3", 275. But
you guys are healthy.
Yes, I'm not
yeah.
fat. I'm not fat. I wear a size 38 jean. I'm strong. I don't have blubber all over me.
Right.
But if you look at the CDC or the health department's definition of me, I'm obese just because I'm a big, strong guy. So they want to mentally fuck you. And can I say that on here?
Yeah.
Okay,
say whatever you want. Yeah.
They want to mentally fuck you and get you watered down to believe, oh, you're not supposed to be big and strong and have broad shoulders. You're not supposed to be able to pick up whatever you want to pick up. You need to be thin and leaned out and have no body fat and have no this. Healthy body fat is healthy. Now, having a big gut, being obese is different. But that fat doesn't come from, and this is the other trick, that fat that most people have does not come from the animal. It comes from the pyramid food chart they give us. And if you go back to 1960, 1970, people were eating eggs, sausage, bacon, grits for breakfast. They would have a ham sandwich or a leftover turkey sandwich that came off of an animal for lunch. And then at supper, they had some type of a beef stew or a roast or chicken, had some potatoes, some carrots. Nobody was living off of protein bars and cereal and cupcakes and
the amount of processed foods being introduced onto the shelves over the last several years is like growing. I have a friend that just moved out here from grade school. That he left California, and him and his family moved out here. I was at their place the other day, and I saw on the counter it was a box of Fruit Loops for the kids. And I'm thinking, Jesus, that's so bad for you. And it got me thinking, the Fruit Loops now is probably way worse now than it was when I was a kid eating that same shit. There's more stuff in it. And when you look at these labels that say natural flavors, there's nothing natural. What is it? What are they putting in there? Like, none of that stuff's good for you.
Well, it emulates the natural flavor. It imitates the natural flavor. It's not you can't harness peanut butter, right? You can't harness the flavor of peanut butter, but they can diagnose peanut butter and break it down at a cellular level and reproduce a chemical that tastes and smells like peanut butter, but it's not peanut butter.
It's like these scented candles. It's like, oh, this smells like the woods, but it's some kind of harmful chemical that you're burning that happens to smell like it. It doesn't mean it's good to have in the air.
Right. And let's not forget, you brought up meat glue earlier. We can get to that. Don't let's not forget to get to that at some point.
Let's do it right now.
So meat glue, and I'm not a scientist, I'm a farmer, so I can't give you the scientific words. But meat glue comes from meat particles that are left over, and then they have synthetic binding material that they add to it. And the nastiest thing is, under the regulation, they don't have to tell you that it's a meat glue product. So you can be sitting in a 5-star restaurant, you could order a New York strip, and it can be 100% meat glue with, well, let's say it's 80% meat glue, 20% meat. They have a machine. Listen, it looks like, have you ever seen chicken nuggets made where it's like this nasty, gooey junk, and then when it comes out the tube, it's formed into a chicken nugget?
Yeah.
So that's basically
it looks like somebody crossed Pepto-Bismol with syrup.
Right? So
it's like super thick.
So the meat glue is kind of clearish white, and then they inject or they re-bleed it to give it the red color of meat. So they have a machine, and it's a big tub. It's a blender. They're mixing it all up. They have a little bit of meat scraps that normally you would throw away, or they would call it dog food or unedible for human consumption. All the bits and pieces around the cow that you just can't eat. You're not going to find it in a butcher shop anywhere. All right, it goes in the trim or the waste bucket. They take that, they grind it up really fine, they process it, they cook it, they run it through. So it's kind of like making a hot dog. They emulsify it, they add the binding agent to it, and then they literally have trays like you're making banana bread or cookies at Christmas, and you got stars and circles and happy faces. They have trays that look like filet, look like ribeye, and they even do it. They do it with fish too. They do it with grouper and different fish. I shouldn't say it, but Don Shula's, their fish is made with meat glue. I know this for a fact. I was there.
Holy shit.
I was there when they brought meat out of a box that they were advertising fresh caught snapper. And when it came out, it looked like a New York strip. And I was like, dude, I don't know what snapper y'all catch, but in the wild, snapper don't look like a New York strip. And the guy brought me the label. He was brand new and he hated his job. And he brought me the label from the back. He's like, look, this is the box I got it out of. I was like, dude, that stands for meat glue, that label. He's like, what's meat glue? And I had to explain to the waiter what meat glue was, and then explain to him why I wasn't going to pay for my meal. Don't get me wrong, though, they were nice. They offered me a free brownie to offset my disgruntledness. But they can take meat glue and meat product, and they make New York strips, they make ribeyes, they make fillets, anything you want. Now, you're not going to find it right now in most butcher shops or at the Publix or the Piggly Wiggly or the Winn-Dixie. They're testing it in restaurants. So it's a way for restaurants to buy a cheaper product, make it look fancy, cook it. You as the consumer, and you can Google it. There's some videos out there where they bring a guy 2 steaks and he takes a bite out of both of them. And he's like, they're both fantastic. And the guy's like, well, can you tell which one is meat glue? And he's like, meat glue, what's that? He's like, well, that's that steak. He's like, oh, that was the better tasted one.
Whoa. Because
it's chemical based and it's nothing but the grind fat that's left over. So it does have great flavor, but it's terrible for you. It's going to kill you. It's going to clog your arteries up. It's going to cause all kinds of problems. So, my grandpa used to say, if you would just work, you wouldn't have to work so hard trying to work. Just go do it. So it's almost like there's something more behind the scenes. Why is the USDA, the FDA, working so hard to manipulate and poison our food?
I think it comes down to the old saying, follow the money, and this is something that has really bewildered me. Organic food, you would think, would be cheaper than the stuff that's non-organic with all the pesticides that's been sprayed on it and all that stuff, because chemicals cost money. And if they're spraying it on food, you'd think that the field across the other side of the county there, where the farmer's not spraying shit on his stuff, would be cheaper because he's not paying for these chemicals to spray. Why is it that organic food costs more than non-organic food?
It's very simple. Yield. It's yield and production. So the GMO varieties of sweet corn, I'll use sweet corn for an example, because I used to grow sweet corn both ways. I used to grow it commercially, and then I'll grow it. We use the word clean because organic's so watered down. So when we used to grow corn, and we would use the seed they provided us, because the buyers will give you seed. Now, they charge you for it, but they will give you the seed of the variety of corn, 8101, 8102, whatever variety they want to sell. That's what they'll send you the plant, and you're responsible for it. So you take those corn and you plant it the way they want it planted, so you can plant it closer in the row and closer in the alleyway, so you get a tighter plant. There's more fertilizer going in. There's more overhead coverage spray. So on an acre, you can get 400, 450, 475 boxes of corn. Okay. Over here, field B, OP, which is open pollinated, that's the seed God gave us. All right, so over here with GMO or synthetic or hybrid, you're going to get like a 92% rate on germination. So you plant 100 seeds, at least 92 of them are coming up. Over here on open population, the original seed God gave us, or heritage that people talk about, you may only get an 80% or a 74% germination rate. So you plant 100 seed, they're not all coming up. So you're going to have gaps in your field for weeds to grow. You're not keeping the weeds out. So now the corn that does grow has to compete with the weeds for the nutrition. You have to cultivate more. So it's more man hours, more tractor hours, more fuel, mechanically cultivating the field to keep the weeds out. Now you have the pests, the worms. So organic spinosyns or dipel, those are two things that really attack caterpillars and worms that grow in corn. So over here, let's say you have like lanate. Lanate's a class 1 chemical carcinogen. It costs like $180 a jug. Okay. Right? I haven't bought it in a long time, so it may be more expensive. But we'll use like 10 years ago prices. Lanate's like $180 for a 2.5 gallon jug. Spinosyn, $579 for a 2.5 gallon jug. Whoa. The rate of lanate is like 3 tablespoons to a gallon. The rate of spinosyn is like a half a cup to a gallon. All right, because you still have to control pests, no matter if it's organic or not organic. You can't let the pests eat everything.
Yeah.
So now you're at harvest day. The commodity field is 400, 450, 475 boxes to the acre. The organic field is like 210, 220, 250.
Gotcha.
So you have all the costs, you have all the hours, you have everything that goes through it, and you get less crop. That's the biggest thing. In cattle, it takes us 28 to 30 months to raise a cow 100% clean and natural. Cows in the feedlot, they go out at like 18, 19, 20, 22 months, 24 months at the oldest. So we have to keep animals alive an extra 6, 7, 8 months to get them up to weight. And our animals never get above 1,300 pounds, 1,400 pounds alive. The commodity cows hang 1,300, 1,400 pounds, which means they were like 2,000, 2,100 alive. So it's yield and production. That's why the cost is so much. The only thing I disagree on is raw milk.
Why is that?
Well, because there's so much more that goes into milk after the fact that raw milk, you just get it from the cow, put it in the jar and sell it. Like, I think raw milk being $10 a gallon is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, but most people that do raw milk, they're milking 1 or 2, maybe 3 cows at the most. Whereas like a big dairy, they're milking 700, 800, 1,000 a day. So they're trying to make their living off of 2 or 3 cows. So I understand why they sell it what they sell it for. But most raw milk, the cow's on a little bit of sweet feed. It's out on grass. You know, you're breeding it, you're AI in it, or you're letting a bull breed it. So you're keeping that milk production going. So that's the only thing that I think is kind of stupid, that the raw milk is so much more expensive than regular milk. But, you know, on chickens right now, with the USDA going after bird flu, which, not to be a conspiracy theorist, but how come no other birds are getting bird flu? Only chickens? I'm just throwing that out there. Like,
yeah, are they worried about like are they worried about turkeys?
Yeah, there was a turkey shortage last year because of the turkeys they killed 2 years ago, they euthanized. But what I'm getting at is, if bird flu was so rampant and so bad, and we'll get back to the cow thing in a minute, because people can't get bird flu from cows unless you ingest its snot, its poop, its pee, or its slobber. You don't get bird flu from eating a piece of meat. All right.
Well, how did that guy, wasn't there a guy recently that tested positive for it? How did he get it?
Because, like I told Shannon, if you follow that guy's day, he was in the parlor, there were sick cows, all right, and he either got in contact with the snot, the saliva, some type of fluid with the cow, and then didn't wash his hands, didn't clean properly, touched his face, touched his mouth, his nose, ate a sandwich, and it was transferred to him through contact. That's how he got it. And that's how that's the only way cows can transmit it to people. Now, and this is the other thing. If they really cared about bird flu in people, they would be studying all the pig farms. Because and we actually sell pigs to the Florida hospital to do research on, because pigs and humans are almost identical. Our skeletal system, our backbone structure, our heart, our kidneys. I mean, we're almost identical the way God made pigs and people for some reason. Pigs can transfer bird flu to people like that. So if there really was a threat, why aren't they tested on the pig farms?
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. That's why I think it's all a hoax. I think it's just another way to scare people. And no one's running to the COVID lines anymore. So they're like,
this is like the new thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, how are we going to get all these people to get a shot? How are we going to sell them shots? Nobody's falling for it anymore. Oh, bird flu and cows. Because when you think about meat, everybody talks about beef and chicken. Pork lost the advertisement war. You know, the advertisement dollars in the public follow the money.
Right.
Chicken is the nastiest animal on the planet other than a duck. They're nasty. They live nasty. They eat each other. That's where the pecking order came from.
Yeah.
Chickens carry mites, they carry fleas, they carry lice, they carry disease, they carry bacteria. That's why you have to cook chicken to 175 degrees.
Yeah.
You know, I tell people all the time, if I lay you out 3 pieces of meat, one, you can eat it raw or eat it bleeding. The other one, you can eat it pink or slightly bloody. The other one, you have to cook it like a rock. Process of elimination, which one is the healthiest? Well, the one you could probably eat raw. How chicken won the marketing war, right? But chicken is the nastiest animal out there. But they know people buy chicken, people buy beef, so they don't worry about the pork. There's no money in it. right? That's why you find Boston butts in the grocery store for 80 cents a pound. There's no money in pork. So commercially, they got to attack the chicken, and then they try to say, okay, we're going to skip the pig, and we're going to jump over here to the beef, and we're going to trick people and let them know that, hey, the beef is dangerous. You better not be around cows or milk because you could get bird flu from cross-contamination. But it's less than 1% chance to get bird flu from a cow. You have to be in contact with that cow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So I was at the grocery store the other day, and I was thinking about making some jambalaya, and I went to look at the shrimps, and I'm like, okay. And I looked at the back of the packaging, and it said farm raised in India. Now, to me, like, nothing against the fine people of India, but it just kind of seems to me I don't want to buy fish that's farm raised either, because what are they putting in that water in that farm? Do they have a lot of room to swim around in and stuff? What are they feeding them? Stuff like that.
Oh, so you've never looked it up?
No, it just seems sketchy to me.
Don't look it up then. It'll ruin your life. So they have cages of shrimp and other fish and bottom feeding, shellfish and crawfish and stuff. Yeah. And they are in cages underneath the chickens and the pigs. And they feed the chickens and the pigs, and as they shit and it goes down into the water, that's why they raise them. That's what the shrimp are eating. Yes, and that's why they're so cheap, because they ain't got no money in them. They're feeding chickens, and they're harvesting chickens and shrimp at the price of raising chickens. And they don't have to dispose of the doo-doo shit, whatever you want to say. I don't know what we can say on here.
Don't say whatever you want. They're like, okay, so we don't have to discard this shit. We'll just let the shrimp eat it, and we'll sell the shrimp too.
Yes, and it's
God!
There's more money in letting the shrimp eat the chicken shit than it is bagging it up and trying to sell it as fertilizer, especially in a country like India or in China or in Indonesia. Yes, I wouldn't buy anything farm raised from a foreign country. I would go outside and eat worms before I bought farm raised from another country.
I wouldn't buy farm raised fish, period. I just don't think it's healthy.
It's not. They're in a controlled. All right, so here's the crazy thing. Again, the marketing war. Everybody wants free range chicken. They want grass fed free range cows. They want cage free pasture raised pigs. But they don't mind their fish and their shrimp from a farm. Well, nobody's farming the oceans. Nobody's farming rivers. They have ponds. They have ponds and containment centers, and these fish live in there. And the feed is just mass dumped to them. They're being fattened up just like cows at a feedlot, and then they're caught, by the ton, processed, shipped out. And people are like, well, this is a nice, fresh, farm-raised fish. That is the opposite. You want fish from the wild, from the ocean. You want them caught. Yeah. I would eat farm-raised fish.
I'd buy fish, and it's all wild caught out in the ocean.
Like even catfish. Have you ever seen the difference in the packaging if you look at the fish, farm-raised catfish versus like river cat or lake cat, and just look at the color of the meat and how different it is? It's nasty. But again, it's like you said, it's all about follow the money. They raise so many.
Yeah, I mean, the fish that I buy, it's wild caught ocean stuff. But I'm up here in Lake Tahoe. There's lakes and rivers all over the place. If I want to eat trout, I'm going to go out and catch it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to catch it myself. It's just so crazy. So I have a friend of mine. She was asking me. She wanted me to talk about. Ask you this. Ask about grass-fed and grass-finished. Like, what's the difference with that?
Well, that's the new biggest scam. So if you see a label that says grass-fed, grass-finished, don't buy it. Leave it alone. Because they purposely tell you about the beginning and the end. They leave out the middle. So the USDA's definition of grass-fed, grass-finished is an animal is born on a pasture, it's dropped from its mom, and while it's milking on its mom, it's out on the pasture, it's out on grass. When they wean that calf, it goes on the cattle wagon either to Amarillo or Troy, Alabama. It goes to one of the feedlots. It lives in that feedlots until it's ready for slaughter, and then they put it back out on a grass pasture for 21 to 28 days of its life. So that way they can say it was finished on grass. It does not mean that it was on grass, on pasture the entirety of its life. It started on grass, it ended on grass. They don't tell you about the 8 months in the middle with all the hormones and injections and steroids and all the bleach-fed corn and soy and sunflower to get it up to weight. So it's just another scam, another label trick to get people to buy it. But anytime they leave something off the label, and I understand, listen, you look like a crazy person in the grocery store. I get it. Nobody wants to be that guy that's picking up everything and reading it. But nowadays you have to. You have to not only look at what's on the label, but what is left off the label. So like if they put a sentence structure on a label and you're like, well, wait a minute, they put grass-fed, grass-finished, but they didn't put anything about the middle. Why'd they leave the middle out?
Well, people don't think about that. I've never even thought about it. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Grass-fed, grass-finished is just another trick. They get cows in feedlots, put them on a pasture for a month, and then they sell them, and they're making crazy money on them. They're upcharging you for it, and you think this cow's never. The other thing, not to blow your mind, but some of the grass-fed labels are tricks because corn and sunflower and different crops, okay?
Yeah,
are grass sorghum crops. They're in the grass sorghum family. The only reason they become labeled a grain is when they're dried, harvested, processed, and put into a barrel. Now that grass has become a grain. So a lot of grass-fed labels are still growing GMO corn, GMO soy, GMO sunflower, GMO oats, but they leave it standing in the field. They flood the field with cattle. They let it eat it all the way down, and they take them from field to field, eating while it's standing, so it's still technically a grass. And then you buy it thinking it's eating grass on the ground, like what you think you mow your yard, like that kind of grass.
Yeah,
but it's still eating the same crop. That it just hasn't been identified as a grain yet because it hasn't been harvested, dried, and put in a barrel. It's so tricky. It's just
dude.
Bullshit. It really is.
It is. And I remember years ago there was a story how there was a truck that overturned and it dropped like 2.5 tons of like old Skittles. It's all candy. And the truck driver was on his way to a big feedlot. The cows were going to eat all this fucking candy that had expired in the store or something. It's like, wait a minute, you mean our cows are eating candy and shit?
Yes. All right. Where do you think all the old bread goes? All the old donuts, all the mass-produced stuff that goes out of date. You think they throw it away?
Oh my God, no way.
No, they recycle all that. I know a guy, and this is where it's bad, right? I tell people, look at the boots, look at the hands, shake the hand of your farmer, meet your farmer. Our slogan at Morris County Farms is your food, your farmer. If you don't buy from us, we're cool. We get it. We can't sell to the whole world. Find a farmer that you can go to his farm. You can look at his cows. You can watch you can see his tractor. You get to know him and his family and then hope that they're honest and they don't lie to you. But there's a guy, he's dead now. He passed away here locally. He used to raise pigs here in Lake Mary, Sanford area. And he went to the discount bread place every Tuesday and loaded up his truck, like a F-250 pickup truck, with as much bread and donuts and baby cakes and whatever they had that they were throwing away. He'd give them like $50 for the whole truckload, take it out to the farm, drop it off. He didn't even take it out of the plastic because he was like,
no way.
He's like, oh, pigs they'll be fine. The plastic won't hurt them. And he didn't even take it out of the plastic. And he never spent $1 feeding his pigs.
You're kidding.
I swear on my life.
Holy shit.
So even some of the local guys do terrible, nasty things because it is hard to make a living. Listen, it's tough when you're going up against big food, these big factory farms and shit like that. It's hard because they pump out so much food at such a high volume. And you can't compete with that. It's hard. It's hard to compete with that. And like we use a local slaughterhouse here in town. We have a USDA inspector there. It's the same price for the inspector if you kill 2 cows or if you kill 7,000 cows. Now, the USDA is supposed to have a grant, so we don't have to pay for the inspector, but they charge you $100 per animal, plus a $10 organ fee for him to look through the organs and let you keep your kidney and your liver and your heart and stuff. They don't let you keep the lungs no more. They don't let you keep the head no more. They've got all kind of rules and regulations for small slaughterhouses of what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do.
Okay.
Because they're, the game wardens, they love lungs because that's how they trap game and trap gators. So, of course, now it's unsafe for us to keep our lungs.
Oh, because they have a vested interest in collecting that stuff.
Because they need the lungs. So now it's not safe for us to have lungs. A lot of Haitians, Jamaicans, Indians, they love everything inside the animal. They make lung soup and stomach soup. They make all kinds of stuff.
It's their cultural cuisine.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I have to tell people now, I can't, they won't let me get it. I was like, the only way to get it is we got to kill the animal on the farm, and you got to come out there and help me. Because, killing an animal, don't get me wrong, I could do it. I've hunted and my whole life I know how to skin and clean animals. But it's a mess to kill a cow and gut it and clean it out on an open.
It's a lot of work.
Yes.
So let's get into your operations, knowing everything that this journey you've taken, and knowing what you know. What is your process for the products that people can buy in your store from beginning to shelf? Like, how does that work over at Moore's Family Farms?
So we either know the farmer we work with, because I don't have time to do it all anymore. We're kind of growing. So I either personally know the farmers I buy from and work with, and I can validate that they farm the exact same way I farm. We only get beef from one other farm besides us. I work with Mr. Jim Rowland, and he farms exactly the way I farm. We buy calves because I don't have enough land to have a calf-cow operation where you have the bull, the cow, and you're dropping calves and raising them. So I buy calves from other farmers, and instead of them sending them out the feedlots, I buy them from them, bring them to our farm, and we raise them out. They're on what we call OP, because you have to feed an animal. I don't care what anybody says. Especially in Florida, our grass is terrible. And an animal will starve to death on Florida grass. But we use OP, open pollinated feed, no GMO, no hormone, no antibiotic, and it's free choice on the fence line. They come over, they eat a little bit, they go back to do whatever they're doing. They're on the pasture their entire life. The day we take them off the pasture, they go straight to the slaughterhouse. No feedlots, no box stalls, no injections.
They're outside in the sunshine. They're out with other cows. They're living a happy cow life. Is what they're doing.
Yep. Our pigs, our lambs, goats, all the same way. Our pigs are on 50 by 50 pens, 50 feet by 50 feet. We have it broken up like that, and then we rotate them around as they root. We don't use fur in crates. Our sows, when they have a litter, so we have enough land. We raise our own pigs from birth to finish. We don't have enough for the lambs and the goats and the cows to birth them ourselves. So right now, I just had a herd of goats dropped off from a farm in DeLand, and we're raising them out, and we're going to breed them. So we're starting to raise a lot of goats. A lot of people want goat meat. So everything we do is clean the way it's supposed to be. Plenty of land. Animals are out moving around. Clean water. We have deep artesian wells where I'm at. It's perfectly clean water. Grass. We rotate our pastures, and that's how we cut down on not insecticide. Well, I have to use insecticide and pesticide, because when you have a multi-species herd, you have cows, pigs, not necessarily pigs in the pasture because they'll root it all up, but goats, lambs, cows, the stuff in there, scat, crap, shit, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
they eat each other. So it cuts down on parasites on your farm by rotating your crops.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So the stuff in the goat crap eats the stuff in the cow crap, and the stuff in the cow crap eats the stuff in the lamb crap, and it's
like a natural harmony there, where you don't need to get all chemicals involved and shit like that. It just sorts itself out.
Yes, and then after they wore down a pasture, we move them off of it. My sons get the 4-wheelers, and we have a gate. That's just a chain link gate we have. We drag the pasture, busted up all the manure, and that manure that they drop goes back down into the soil. And that's the fertilizer we use to help the grass grow back. And we rotate, we rest our land. We do it the way, I believe in God, I believe in the Bible, so we kind of do it biblical. I tell people, go back to Leviticus, Solomon, and the way God tells us to do things. That's kind of how we do it, Nice. And then the other thing is, when it comes time to slaughter, we don't use a chlorine rinse. We don't bleach our animals. We kill them. Yes, they have to be washed off and cleaned, but we just use ice cold water. We have a system that gets the water down to like 33 degrees. Ice cold water helps that animal get cold to the bone. We put it in the walk-in cooler. We let it hang. We hang meat anywhere from 3 days up to like 15. If somebody wants to order an aged beef, we'll let it hang longer if they bought the whole beef. And then we cut it up. We bring it to our shop and we sell it. And if we have to freeze something because we cut too much, it never comes back out as previously frozen. We sell it from the freezer, do a discount. People can shop. That website you gave, a customer built that for me. But
yeah, it's actually nice. Premiumorganicmeat.com.
But I don't think you can order from that.
No, it says shop now, coming soon. But you have it's a really cool website that there's all kinds of stuff here. It all says buy now, coming soon.
All right, we're building Morris Meats right now. So if they look at, I don't know if it's up, but if you check out morrismeats.com,
let me look it up.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that one. I don't know nothing about a computer. Literally, my wife had to help set this podcast up for us.
Okay, yeah, here's Morris Meats. It's up.
Is the purchase button up yet? I know my buddy's working on it. He's one of our customers.
Not yet. Okay, so it's informative though. It looks like it's pretty well put together.
All right, so if you could put that one out, maybe.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
And then as soon as it's ready to make purchases, people can. But we ship all over the country. We have a monthly meat box that's a variety of beef, pork, chicken, butter, bacon. We make all of our sausage from our pigs from scratch. We make it in the shop. Wow. No nitrates, no processed crap, just salt, pepper, garlic, some stuff. We have cheese. We pack cheese and jalapenos in some and make some. Our Italian is probably the best Italian you ever had. We actually roast our fennel and we open it up before we put it in the sausage, so it's got a real Italian authentic flavor.
Nice.
So people can we're backwards simple people, right? The shop number is 407-402-5686. They can text, order, we'll ship stuff to them. If they want to be on the monthly meat box, they can get a box every month shipped to their door all over the country. Or if you just want to buy some ribeyes or buy some sausage, we have all kind of ways to get stuff to people.
What I think is awesome that you do too is like there's people that can't make it to your store out in Lake Mary. You'll if there's enough customers in a certain area in Georgia or whatever, you'll just load up the truck and go right to them.
Oh yes, we have 3 stops now. So we have the Panhandle, which is about 4 spots. We stop in Niceville. Oh my goodness. My brain died. Freeport, Niceville, and Fort Walton. So we go to those 3 stops. We're in Atlanta, Georgia. We go there. And now we're in Alabama. We have a stop just outside of Montgomery. So we have 3 different spots that we will drive, and we meet 10, 12, 15 people at a time. And we always post that. Morris Family Farms is a good Facebook follow. My wife, Amy's always posted on there. We do a lot of stuff on there. We make announcements. And then if they follow Between the Ribs, that's our YouTube, and we're on X and TikTok and Facebook. Between the Ribs with Jonathan Morris. So good way to stay.
If you could send me the links after this, like email them to me, I'll be sure to include it in the description on the YouTube video.
Okay. Heather built a link tree for me. You want that link tree?
Yeah, send everything to me. Yeah, email it to me. Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Sure
yeah.
All right, I sure will. Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. So you have these people that live in big cities where they can't really like grow anything or stuff like that. What are things that they should be looking for in stores, like label wise, where they think, well, this is probably about as healthy as I could get, stuff. But that's another thing that always kind of confused me. Like you go into a grocery store and you'll see the butcher area there, the counter and stuff like that. Are they just taking stuff out of packages and throwing it on the ice and the display? Yes. Is that what they're fucking doing?
It's called box meat. All right.
Oh shit.
You need to find that. I'm sure there's got to be one in every city. I hope there's at least one in every city.
Right.
You got to do your due diligence and go around and find it. Probably it's going to be in an ethnic community. If you're no disrespect to white people, but if you're a trifling white person that's scared to go to ethnic communities, you're stuck with whatever the grocery store sells you. But if you're not scared to go into a Black or Hispanic or Jamaican, Haitian, Indian neighborhood, most of those people demand better because they know where real food comes from. As Americans, we've been so displaced from our food. Like, there's a lot of customers that come to my shop, and my walk-in cooler has glass doors on one side. And I'll let people look at the animals hanging. I'm like, I'm cutting that one next week, that one tomorrow.
That is such a brilliant thing to do, because people can actually see it. I've heard like stupid people say that farming is a threat to the environment. You need to stop farming. If you ask them, okay, well, where are you going to get your food from? And they say, we just go to the supermarket.
Where
they don't know where the supermarket gets it.
Exactly. A quick story. The lady at the bank teller at my bank, she's like, Mr. Morris, I would be so proud of my son. He got $5 for Christmas from his grandma. And I asked him what he was going to do with it. He said, I want to give it away. I want to help somebody. And so she's like, well, baby, who do you want to help? He said, I want to help a farmer. And she said, well, why do you want to help a farmer? And the kid goes, because nobody should have to get food off the ground. They should all be able to go to Publix. Now, she stared at me as my blank face, and I'm trying to think to say, why didn't you slap your kid in a nice way? She was so proud of her son, and I was like, that's the problem. You have parents that they salute their child for wanting to help a poor farmer not have to get food off the ground. Where do you think the food in Publix comes from? It comes from the ground, and some farmer had to grow it, harvest it, pick it, pack it, ship it, and get it to the Publix or the Piggly Wiggly or whatever. We are so displaced from our food. That's why they can trick us, and that's because we don't want to know. It would blow your mind the amount of people. I guarantee you it's 50-50. Amount of people that come to my shop, and I point to the case, and half of them are like, oh, can I see? The other half are like, oh, no, I don't want to know. I don't want to know where it came from. I just want the filet trimmed out. That's the problem. We have been tricked into believing that food comes from a black tray with saran wrap over it, and it's already priced and trimmed, and there was no living animal connected to that piece of meat. So when they start telling you cows are bad, farmers are bad, farts are bad, shit's bad, feed's bad, you can believe it because you've never seen the animal attached. And then you blow somebody's mind when they find out there's only like 6 pounds of filet on a half of beef. You know, tenderloin on a cow is only that big. You only get like 6-7 fillets on each side. And you know, I've had people call and order a whole cow, and they're like, I'd like all filet and ribeye, please. And I was like, yeah, we all would. But there's a chuck roast, there's a chuck roast and a shoulder and legs and shanks. But anyways, we're so displaced, and I don't mean to keep repeating that, but people need to know it's okay to get to know your food. You need to know your food. There's nothing wrong with petting the cow before you harvest it, slaughter it, whatever word you want to use. You know, you're supposed to be connected to the earth, connected to your food. Like all these people that believe in grounding, they want to walk around barefoot and be connected to the earth.
Sure.
But God forbid they know where a steak comes from. They don't want to be that connected. And that's a problem.
They would rather someone else do that kind of dirty work. And I get it. There's a guy on Twitch. He's in Canada, and he lives on like 40 acres that he got, and he quit his desk job in Toronto, and he's doing homesteading, and he's doing really good. He built his cabin and everything, and he got pigs for the first time, and he got them to weight and everything, and it was time to harvest them. And that guy just kept making excuses to not go out there and kill them and like shoot them and everything. And he got attached to him, but it really kind of shows that the guy actually cares about the animal and stuff like that. And it doesn't make him a bad person.
No.
People do need to know where their food is coming from. And if they were to see like these factory farms, I watched that documentary Food Inc.
Oh, that'll mess your life up.
Holy shit. It traumatized me, and it really upset me, but it's something that I don't regret it. I'm glad I saw it. Because that opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. And then like hearing you on the Shannon Burke show, and then the doing your own thing, it really opened up my eyes to a lot of stuff. It's like, okay, it's okay. Yeah. So you're eating some stuff that's unhealthy, and here's the thing too, it's like the percentage of certain things that they put in there that will pass. They'll say, okay, well, it's safe for consumption, but if you're eating A, B, C, D, and E, well, then you're overdosing on the shit that they're putting in.
Right. It's called microdosing.
It's microdosing.
It's
And
microdosing, which leads to toxic buildup and rejection by your body, which now leads to cancer, heart disease, stroke, or whatever other organ that may shut down because you have reached maximum overload. So that story, that lady that killed her husband putting, a little bit of poison in his coffee every day, and then she finally killed him after 10 years. We're poisoning ourselves with factory food. A little bit. These heavy metals don't break down in our body. That's why they call them forever chemicals. But I'm
actually taking like a supplement. My wife has deep dived into nutrition big time. And I'm taking a supplement to help remove like toxic metals and shit out of my bloodstream. I don't know where I'm getting it, but I'm getting it. We all are.
I watched this documentary the other day about microwave safe containers. And the lady showed the chemical process of how they treat the plastic. And it's kind of like, if you believe in like the Marvel movies, it's kind of like this mist goes over the plastic and settles and covers it. And now it's microwavable safe. But when it heats up, the particles come back up in the atmosphere around the plastic. That's how it protects the plastic from the microwave rays. Yeah. And then it shows it, if there's food in there, it shows it under microscope. It grabs it. So as it's sitting here and then the microwave turns off, it turns off, as it cools, those chemicals are supposed to go back into the plastic, but there's a steak laying there or a fish or rice so that the particles settle on the food and then you eat it. And people don't understand why they have BPAs all in their bloodstream and why it's in their urine and their poop. Well, it's because you're microwaving everything. We threw our microwave away. Don't call me crazy, but I no longer own a microwave. I would not microwave anything. I tell my kids. Same here.
We haven't had my wife and I, we haven't had a microwave ever. We've been together 14 years.
Oh, wow.
When I found out that when you, like, I went on this thing, I saw you could buy in the store these frozen vegetables. They're organic and they're in a plastic bag, and you could steam them in the bag, throw it in the microwave. Well, the fucking microwave is killing most of the nutrients that you want to get from the vegetable that you're eating. So not only are you missing out on those nutrients, but you're also getting a little bit of microplastic as a chaser with this shit.
Well,
we have an air fryer, and we bought an air fryer. Now there's forever chemicals, the Teflon in the air fryer. So now we had to find one where everything is stainless steel inside the grates that you slide in and out.
Hey,
it's a learning curve to all this shit, man.
I tell people all I do now is a cast iron skillet or a grill.
I got a cast iron on the stove right now. I got an air fryer over there.
We don't own anything but a cast iron skillet. You can throw it in the oven.
Yeah.
You can put it on top of the oven.
Well, there's a problem with the cast iron skillets now, Jonathan.
Wait, for real? Well, mine are old. My cast iron skillets are passed down from my grandma.
Well, then you're fine. But there's a lot of them you could buy now, and there's a company called Lodge. I love them. And I saw a porcelain cast iron Dutch oven that I was going to get my wife for Christmas. I'm like, why is this only $40? Normally these things should be more. And I looked on it, made in China. Now, yes, it's cast iron, yes, porcelain, all that shit. But when the Chinese are making these products, are they melted down cars? Like, what are they?
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Like, where's this iron coming from?
That makes sense.
That's my problem.
I have to confess, she hasn't opened it yet. I saw the same Lodge Dutch oven and I bought it.
Look at the box. Look at the box.
I got it. It's sitting under the kitchen table. She hadn't even opened it yet. I need to check that out because she always wanted a Dutch oven, and we don't have one. My mom still has my grandma's original cast iron Dutch oven that has the ring on it that you hang out over the fire.
Yep.
I haven't inherited that yet. So I saw that one, and I thought the same thing. Wow, $49! I ought to buy 3 of them. I only bought one.
Saw it at Home Depot.
That's where I bought mine at Home Depot.
Shit. Yeah, look at the box. It's made in China, dude. And the thing is, like Lodge, years ago, I bought my cast iron, and it's made in USA. That's why I'm like, all right, Lodge is a good product. I could trust them.
Right.
I went to I came down the mountain. I go off the mountain like once a week to go to Costco, Trader Joe's, hit up all the stores so I could get back up. Because where I live at, there's none of that shit. So, and I'm like, oh, great, I'll get this Dutch oven at Home Depot. And I looked at the box because I was going to scan it. I was looking for the barcode, and it said made in China. I'm like, so Lodge did that did that. They switched it
Wow.
from made in USA to made in China. So I'm not going to buy any more of their shit. You have to look at the labels. You have to look at the box.
Yes.
And it's not just the food. It's the pots and pans that you're buying now to cook the stuff with.
Yeah, the Teflon
It's
is
just
terrible.
as dangerous as the you know.
Yeah,
the
but again,
ingredients in the food.
how did the Teflon, and I know we're kind of jumping around now a little bit. Oh, by the way, save your money. Quick go to Trader Joe's. I did a video on it. Everything at Trader Joe's you can get at Costco's, or the Winn-Dixie or the Piggly Wiggly. They just take out big bins, repackage it, put their label on it. It's all the same product. It'll break your heart. Do a deep dive into Trader Joe's. It'll break your heart. It'll break your heart. You're wasting your money.
I'm not going to tell my wife because that's her favorite store. That's
Go
where
to,
we get
listen, go to Costco, buy a 50-pound bag of chocolate-covered nuts. Go online and order your little plastic containers. Put them in there. Slap your name on the label. Be like, look, baby, I'm making my own nuts now.
we got Trader J's over here.
That's all Trader Joe's does. It's disgusting. I'm not saying they buy from Costco, but it's the same stuff. They're not.
It all comes down to like it, you know, all this. There's like millions of thousands of different kind of like labels of different things you could buy, but it kind of seems like if you just follow that trail of where it comes from, you're going to get into a dead end where it's just a handful of companies that all make this stuff.
Yes,
right?
There's four major packers, and the largest one is Tyson. And everybody thinks Tyson is chicken. They are chicken, but they're also the largest beef producer and beef packer in the world.
And crickets now. Did you hear about that?
I did a video yesterday about a cheddar powder, a cheddar cricket powder.
Yeah, from Toronto.
Yeah, they haven't got it in like generic labels yet, like the ones we all know.
Yeah,
but they have. It was like 13 or 14 different brands. The main ingredient is cheddar. It's a cheddar, ACHETA, a cheddar powder, and all of it is ground up crickets. But here's what people need to know: if you have a shellfish allergen, you can't eat it; it'll kill you, because crickets and shellfish have the same enzyme. So,
oh shit! So
I don't know
sued for that.
I don't know if they put that on the label, if they got a warning on the box. I haven't found any locally in Lake Mary yet in any of our stores. Every once in a while, I go to Publix or the Trader Joe's or the Whole Foods, and I'll walk around and kind of see what they got in there. I haven't seen anything with a cheddar powder in it yet in our local markets. But yeah, if you have a shellfish allergen, you can't eat it. It'll make you break out.
Wow, that's interesting. That's crazy, dude. Another thing I was looking at that my wife brought up, she said that like Italy, for example, like their pastas are like they refuse to use like a lot of the same chemicals for their wheat and all that stuff. So
yeah, and their olive oils, their oils, not necessarily Europe. You got to stick with Italy. I was going to say that when you talked about what people need to look for in the grocery store, if you don't have access to anything else.
Right.
You need to find authentic stuff made in Italy, or Chile. Chile has the highest growing standards of any. So if you can find stuff, because unfortunately you can't trust American labels unless you're willing to stand there and do your research and Google the label, Google the farm on the label, find out where it was at, look at where it was packed at, who it was packed for. All that stuff's on the label if you read it and flip it over, read the back. So even though it may be a farm on the label, if you turn it over and look at the address and the packaging and who packed it for it, it may funnel you back in to Tyson or National. National is another big name, or BPI is another big name. You know, there's 4 or 5 big names that you go from this and you just keep following it. You're like, oh wow, it's all a lie. It's just a label.
Yeah, and here's another crazy thing that you brought up a long time ago on the Burke Show. The Americans were sending our chickens to China to be culled, processed, and sent back here.
Yes, that's how cheap it is. It's so much cheaper, and the stuff they do to them, that's disgusting.
They could get away with doing the shit to the chickens there that they can't do here, which is why they do that. Right.
It's just like, why do you think the People's Republic of China bought Smithfield Farms? So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because a lot of people in America have said, we don't want any pork that the mama was put in a farrowing crate. And that a farrowing crate is like a 2x2, 2-foot wide stall just long enough for the pig to go in. Her head sticks out. They feed her and water her at one end. He shits out the other end. All she can do is stand up and lay down. There's bars on both sides.
Oh, my God.
So that way when she has her babies, she pushes them out, and the babies are on the outside of the bars on heating pads. And they say it's for increased production so the mom don't lay on one or step on one. It gives the baby safety. But it's terrible on the moms. They still end up laying on a couple and stepping on a couple. It's just a way to mass produce them. So imagine if you had sows lined up like this. How many could you get compared to if they were out on a big 50 by 50 or 100 by 100 piece of property? It's just mass production. So
yeah,
there's a lot of states who have said, we don't even want you transporting pigs that have been in fair and crates through our state. And with the Interstate Compact Act, that has like fucked a lot of stuff up. So China's like, cool, we'll buy Smithfield. They used to be a 49% owner. Now they own it outright 100%. They take all the sows to China, put them in fur crates, drop the babies, get the babies up, almost ready to wait, ship them back to Smithfield in Pennsylvania, finish them off there, kill them there, and it says USA pork, born and raised in the USA, or raised in the USA, or slaughtered in the USA, or processed in the USA, but they're all done in China. And They just send them over on one of their trash bins or trash barges, you know? Wow. It's just like the cardboard. The cardboard they feed to animals. They grind it up and feed it to animals. Why do you think China wants our trash? Have you ever thought, like, why would a country want our shit? Like, you know, you understand when the Chinese boats come into America and dock, and we unload all their shit, the Barbie dolls, the phones,
everything, yeah.
They take all of our cardboard back, all of our trash back, all of our shit, our waste. Do you know how much stuff they take back with them? That's supposed to help offset the freight on why China can ship stuff so cheap to us, because they're
not returning with an empty load.
Right, they're taking stuff back. But sure. Why do they want our shit? Because they're turning our cardboard and our waste into stuff and selling it back to us.
Wow.
In products, in animal feed, ground up. It's disgusting. We have been sold. American people have been sold. I wear this 7076 shirt, and my brand is "We the People, Morris Mafia," right? And I do that on purpose because we have lost sight. I know we're talking about food and farming, but as a nation, we have lost sight.
Yeah, there's a bigger picture here.
Yes,
it's not just the food.
It all boils down to that we the people are no longer free. We're less free now than when we burned the ships and when we left England. We have less restrictions under the king than we do now under our government. And if you read the Constitution, our government was never supposed to be this big.
At all, ever.
Never, not even close. I mean, if Trump could cut it in half, which I don't know if they will, but even if we cut it in half, the government is still too big.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the problem. Our government owes too many people too much. We have been weighed and tried, and we have been found not worthy anymore. As a nation, we're owned by China. We're owned by other countries. We're owned by Russia. We're owned by Ukraine. You look at all these countries and you wonder, why would we do this? Well, they know something, or they have something, or they're giving us something. There's a reason our government has betrayed us to these foreign countries. And part of that is, why would a foreign country take our shit, our garbage, our rubble, our trash, our cardboard? Well, they're taking it for free, and they're making stuff with it, and they're selling it back to us at 100% profit.
That's so crazy. Well, okay, well that brings up another thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm glad we're getting into it. What are your thoughts on RFK Jr. getting in?
Okay. A lot of people don't like me for this, but I'm excited. I love the guy. He is a little bat crap crazy. Don't get me wrong. And that's why he will only work under somebody like Donald Trump. He has to be on a tight leash because he is a little bit crazy. Some of his policies are far out there. But on the stuff that he's good at, he is spot fucking on. The FDA needs to be done away with. The CDC needs to be done away with. The USDA needs to be broken up, dismantled, and rebirthed. The money and the programs that the federal government give to the USDA that they spend on everything but farming should be criminal. All right? The poisons they put in our food, the fluoride in the water, the folic acid that they spray on every grain field in America, and then they call it fortified and enriched, it all has to stop, or we're not going to be here as people in 100, 150 years. Now, I'm sure some of us will be here, but our life expectancy is going way down. Our successful rate, our birth rate is 1.2. People aren't reproducing. We can't have babies no more.
People aren't having kids.
But the reason why is because people can't. The number one business in America right now is sex. ED pills, ED treatment, testosterone, women hormones, estrogen this, testosterone this. Just look at it. Look at the ads all over social media. There's more ads for sexual endurance, sexual performance, testosterone replacement, detoxification, blood flow, women regulation, women's cycles regulating. There's more of those companies are coming to light. And I'm not
because
saying
of the shit that's in our food that we're eating. That's why we're having all these problems.
Yes. And when you and your wife have tried to get pregnant for 3 years and can't, and then she is mad or you're mad or you don't feel like a man and it messes up your marriage bed and she either cheats or y'all divorce or whatever. Now the woman feels less than because she can't get pregnant. The man feels less than because he can't get her pregnant. It fucks with our psychology, our psyche. Yeah. Right? Yeah, and now we're walking around as less than people, and we don't want to have sex no more. We don't want to reproduce because now we're embarrassed because, we don't want to meet a new girl. I mean, I'm married, 29 years old, so I'm not meeting, but I'm saying like our nation as a whole.
And and it's more than that though too. It's also that again the shit that they're putting in the food. It lowers the drive to reproduce and to get into healthy relationships and to have that as a goal to start a family and stuff like that. But it's not just that, it's everything in general. People don't want to go out and do things because, I'm too tired, I'm too exhausted. You haven't done shit but eat bad food for you.
Well, they keep us in front of screens, and I know that's an oxymoron. I tell people, please don't stop watching my content. Don't stop watching my content, but monitor yourself and spend some time outside in the sunlight, right? So almost every job now in America is in front of a screen. The phone, the laptop, a computer. It's inside, in front of a screen, fake lighting, and you got 5 minutes to eat because you only get a 30-minute lunch. It takes you 15 minutes to get somewhere and 15 minutes to get back. So you grab something from the vending machine or the downstairs cafeteria, packed full of shit.
Or you microwave something and you're not getting anything out of it.
Yeah, or you microwaved it in the break room at the office. And I don't know how to break the cycle that we have boxed ourselves into. I tell everybody the greatest, worst thing that's ever happened to us is the Industrial Revolution. Like people talk about, well, if that had to happen, if this had to happen, if we could go back and rewind and not have the Industrial Revolution, we would not be having this conversation we're having today. Now, it's too late.
Yeah.
Toothpaste is out of the tube. But when they convinced us to leave our farms and leave our towns and come into the city, it has fucked us up. They were funneling us, herding us like sheep to slaughter back then. And I really believe it's a coordinated effort. They say 5 or 10 families rule the world, right? I don't know who they are, but I'm really starting to believe the more I research things and look at things, and I have a common sense background. That's all. I'm a common sense guy. I got 59 credit hours at community college. That's all I got. All right, everything else I learned by being out in the world. I'm starting to realize that they really are herding us like livestock, funneling us into the cities, the society, the functions they want us, so we're easily controlled, manipulated, confused, and in the end, they control us. They have what they want. They have we are a product for whoever those people are, if I don't sound so bad crap crazy. Does that make sense?
No, you're right. And I think a lot of people are drawn to politics, the bad people, are the same people who like to be like the homeowners association president because they want to have that kind of control over people and be able to tell them what they can and can't do. And it's not just politics; it's also corporations and these lobbyists and shit. And like, for example, You see like these Mountain Dew blast flavored potato chips. You could buy that, but you will get arrested if you buy raw milk off the Amish. Now, tell me how that is worse for you than Fritos and shit.
It's manipulation and control. Nature's choice, right? And I'm not bashing them, but there's nothing about nature's choice.
No.
People are like, man, I got this great. It's in a green package, and it looks like it came from the woods. I ate a nature's choice bar for lunch. Well, you might as well have went out there and ate fucking dirt.
Well, that's just like the cigarettes. You got the Marlboro Man. It's just genius cool. Marketing.
It is. It's marketing. It's manipulation. It's marketing through manipulation, and they want you to believe that this stuff is good for you. And I'm circling back to RFK. All right, marketing through manipulation. They have all these labels. And the FDA and the USDA are organizations that are supposed to protect the American people. But they have sold us out for corporate greed. And if you follow every retiring or leaving member of the FDA, from the chief down, every fucking single one of them worked for one of the corporations they used to regulate. Okay?
Every one of them, none of them are outsiders, not one.
No, the only ones that don't are the ones that are dead. Every single one of them fuckers that are alive left public office as servants and now make 6-7 figures working for the companies they used to write regulations and monitor. And you tell me that I agree. The FDA needs to be banished. The USDA needs to be banished. The CDC needs to be banished. The health department needs to be done away with. Even the Department of Education. All that shit. Because here's the thing. The Department of Education is supposed to protect our children. But yet they have allowed, through the USDA and the FDA, to let these corporate corrupt companies bring in the box cereal and the grain bars and all this shit that they feed our kids in the school cafeteria. And we wonder why we have all the problems with kids' behavior.
Yeah.
And all the autism and the HDAD and all the crazy stuff there's 100 different labels for kids now. And I heard a guy say it best. He's like, we feed all these kids fortified and enriched foods. And then the school calls and says, hey, little Johnny or little Susie has some trouble. We want him to go down to the psych and get on some medicine. He's like, that's like walking outside in the morning and having a flat tire. And you say to yourself, oh, I'll go around and puncture all the other tires so I have an equally flat car. No, you fix the fucking flat tire, you air it up, and now you have 4 good tires. You don't break another part of the child's system to offset a broken system. You get the folic acid out of their diet. You get the enriched out of their diet. You get the glyphosate out of their diet. You get the GMOs out of their diet. And then all of a sudden, these kids are cool. They're normal kids.
Yeah.
You get them back in a PE class where they get to go run around and act like a maniac for 35, 40 minutes and sweat in the middle of the day. And then
they're out in the sun. They're not inside a confined building. And they're outside doing things.
And now all of a sudden the 4th period math teacher is like, wow, these kids are great. And they all got A's and B's. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they've been outside running around. They've had recess. They've had their break. They've had healthy food. And now they have the ability to learn. So I say all that. When you weigh the pros and the cons of RFK Jr., the pros outweigh the cons. I could deal with the crazy if he promises to fix the rest of the shit. Now, if he goes back crap crazy on climate, I may have to walk it back a little bit.
It's kind of crazy because if it weren't for him and Trump getting in office and stuff, if we were to continue on the same path that we've been on, let's just say that. Let's take the politics out of it. Let's say everything continues the way it's going. The 15-minute city conspiracy, all that kind of shit. We're almost becoming the cows that we're confining and raising, because you have these these factory farms. The cows are in tight spots. Well, look at these major metropolitan cities. You have people working in cubicles that are shrinking because they want to get more staff in there. And so you're sitting next to somebody instead of having more space. You're in front of a screen all day. You're becoming the cattle that you're consuming.
Yes, and here's the ironic part, or the asinine. I created this word, asinization. All right, I got a patent, trademark it, how that works.
I love it.
Asinization. All right. The acidization of people. We fight the cattle farmers. We fight the pig farmers. We fight the chicken farmers. Cows need more space. Chickens need to be free range. Pigs need more of this. But yet we allow ourselves to be herded, funneled, corralled into a fucking prison that we're building. We are building the 15-minute cities that we're allowing them to trap us in. I've got this crazy, listen, I got this crazy thing I did on my Between the Ribs show on Saturday on Florida Man. I did it last year. All right. I was riding down in oh my gosh, that big golf town on the other side of Orlando. Oh my goodness. Tiger Woods lives down there. Shaq lives down there. I can't think of the name right now. Big old place on the other side of Disney. If you live there, you know what I'm talking about. Every single place has an 8-foot wall and steel gates around it. And there's a guard there letting people in. So we were down there making deliveries one day, and my wife was riding with me. And it was right after COVID. And I was like, hey, what happens with the next time something happens? They put the guard on the outside of the gate. And it's not about keeping people from coming in. When you come to the gate, you're like, hey, I need to get out. I'm going into town. They're like, no, sorry. Oh, everybody has to be confined. Shit. Everybody has to be confined to their communities. And you're like, no, I got to go pick up my son. Well, sorry, man, you can't leave. We had an order from the governor, an order from the president. Because everything's private company now. All these private security companies. But if you look at the name, they're all the same fucking company. The CG, CPC, or whatever, they're all owned by the same company. So when they get a mandate down, hey, we're sending in backup, we're sending in tank, we're sending in a truck, a Jeep, artillery. No one's allowed to come out the gate. Lock the gates, 8-foot wall. How we have built our prisons. So we live in gated communities as stupid people thinking it's protecting us from the outside people. But what happens when they're like, oh, great, we're glad there's 1,000 of y'all that live inside this wall. Now we know we'll just keep y'all in. The food truck will be here on Tuesday.
Wow.
I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I saw it. I was like, we're building it, and we're happy to build it. There was a 40-acre farm in Lake Mary. The dad died. The 2 sons were like, we got too many cousins and nephews and brothers to break up 40 acres. We'll sell it, and we'll divide the money between the family. It's now called whatever the fuck name of it is. But in one 40-acre block, they have 280 homes. They have a gym, a bank, a donut shop, a mattress store, a Winn-Dixie, a nutrition center, a natural health center, a Zaza's takeout food, a pizza shop. They don't have the wall finished, but there's a wall 3/4 away around it.
Wow.
So if they were to finish that and you had to get access in or access out, and the stupidest thing, 90% of the people that live there don't have cars. And when you talk to them, they're like, I don't need a car. There's a Winn-Dixie. There's a bed store. I could buy a mattress and they're walking across the street for me. I get in the elevator and I go down to the gym. I've got a Mexican store. I've got an Italian store. I've got a health nutrition store. There's a whole health doctor. And there's a bank with an ATM. Why do I need a car?
Yeah. Like, you don't need a car to go down to Morris Family's farms to buy healthy food. There's a Winn-Dixie with plenty of processed shit right there that you can walk to.
But what I'm getting at is we have been manipulated through marketing that not me, not you, but those people look at us and say, what the fuck is wrong with y'all? What do you mean you want to live out the land and hunt and fish and raise and kill cows and drive trucks that take diesel? Why don't you just move into the city and sell your car and quit? And they're proud of themselves for living in a 2-bedroom condo in a controlled city. They're proud of themselves. Like, we are the smart ones. We have arrived. It's like, no, you're boxing yourself in.
Yeah, they sell it to you with the label of the ultimate convenience, where it's, that's the thing. And it's so crazy because I spent most of my life in Southern California, and as time went on, they would pass these new laws and new this and new that. You're like, well, that sucks. This doesn't help us. Right. This is shitty. Whatever, and you get used to it and you get accustomed to it. And then I moved up to Lake Tahoe. I'm on the Nevada side of Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe is right in the middle of the California-Nevada border. And I get to Nevada and I'm like, this is like living in another country. Like, you could walk around with a gun on you. Like, and you could, everything is like, it's so much different. They don't lock up the spray paint cans at the Home Depot. They're like everything. People are nicer, and it's more spread out. And it's like my only regret is not moving to Nevada sooner.
Okay, all right.
It blows my mind, but you get accustomed to that kind of lifestyle, dude.
Because it's slow. It's a slow dial. It's like
a slow drip coffee process where
it's like
eventually.
The frog. It's like the frog analogy. You throw a frog in boiling water, he's going to jump out. You put a frog in a pot of water and slowly rise up the temperature, and you can boil him to death. He'll never even try to get out.
Yeah.
All right. That's what they're doing to us. They're slowly turning the dial little bit by little bit. And I'm not picking on people that live in these cities. I mean, hey, that's what you want to do. Great. But don't fight us, the ones that want to be free. And we want to have land, and we want to mow our own grass, and we want to cultivate land and raise stuff. Don't be mad at us because we didn't conform. And
well, here's the thing too. It's like don't knock it till you try it. Come out here and give it a shot, and see how it is over here on the other side of the fence. Yeah. You might be happier for it.
Yeah, but you talk about California. You go all the way back down to the valley where they grow all the vegetables and the lettuce and everything out. And there used to be a lot of cattle out there. And but most of the cattle farmers have gone because, thirst is a real thing, whether or not people believe it or not. It's not necessarily about starving out cattle farmers. It's thirsting them out. And I know that doesn't sound like a real word, but it is, to be thirsted out. That means when the almond milk people and the almond farms have more power and more politics and more control and more lobbyists that because if you understand being in Nevada, the water works from the mountain. Yeah, they have pipelines, and if you're not allotted, if you're not allotted water today, you don't matter if you turn open your pipe, there ain't no water coming out. Right? All right, I got a buddy that farmed in Colorado, farmed in Nevada, and they have to go down and apply for water permits. And if they don't get the water don't come out the pipe. It's like, hello, the pipe's empty. So they stopped allowing water to go to these dairy farms and these cattle farms in Southern California because the almond milk was so much more valuable and so much more precious, and it was so much better for the planet and blah, 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 that California, through legislation and being controlled, has pushed that industry out. So now you have people in California who are displaced from cows. So it's very easy to have these experimental cities in California where we're going to grow crickets, we're going to grow grub, we're going to micro-produce protein in trays because we don't need animals, because there's no fucking animals in California no more.
Because cows are bad. We don't want that here.
Right. Yeah. But the almonds are great, and we're going to milk an almond. But have you ever seen almonds? It's not milky, but have you ever seen the process to make almond milk? There's so many more mechanical functions and exhaust and fumes and fuel and electricity needed to produce almond milk than milking a fucking cow.
Yeah.
But they trick you and tell you that the cow is killing the planet. Yeah. And I am picking on almonds because you can't milk a fucking almond. All right. So for all the almond milk drinkers out there, just quit it. Just stop. But marketing through manipulation, cows are bad, almonds are good. Let's drink almond milk. They created an entire industry. Like literally, somebody sat back and thought, man, it's not good enough that we have cashews and almonds and pecans and walnuts at Christmas time and holidays and people snack on them. What if we create an industry where we start milking these nuts? We'll call it milking, even though we're just crushing them and taking the sap out of them. And we'll trick everybody into cows and milk are bad, and we'll create them a milk that they can replace dairy with through almonds. The entire industry was created to push farmers out, cattle farmers out. And they did. They won. It won. Wow.
I remember one thing you said years ago about California in particular. You said if the USDA were gone, California could theoretically feed the entire country.
Yes. The valley in Southern California, my brain died. What's the name of the valley? The San.
Well, there's the San Fernando Valley, but if you
go south of there, where all the lettuce is grown, my brain died. I'll think of the city in a minute. The area, it's a region
like Norco and stuff like that. Or?
I think so. I have to look. The lettuce route that goes from California to Chicago. Oh my gosh, my brain, it's not 40.
That's all right. Yeah.
Anyways, that's like the American Garden of Eden. I tell people all the time, if you've never
because the climate is so perfect.
Yes, it's year round. They grow millions of boxes of lettuce, kale, Swiss chard, broccoli, cauliflower,
nonstop.
Year round. It's one crop after another crop. I mean, it's like God said, okay, y'all gonna go to America and start a new country. I guess we need another Garden of Eden. Let me just give you the valley. I'll make it perfectly located where you can get south, you can get east, you can get up to the north, and you can get vegetables all over the country. And if it wasn't for USDA regulation, and if it wasn't for all the crap, we could produce enough vegetables and animals in that part of California that we could feed all of America. Maybe not the world anymore, but all of America. You know, and if you look at Belgrade and Pahokee, which is in South Florida where I was born at, we grow 1 million boxes of sweet corn from March 1st through Memorial Day. We're the largest producer of sweet corn in America during that spring crop. And then you have parts of Georgia and Tennessee that also grow sweet corn, not field corn, but sweet corn. The land is here and it's available, but the regulation, the state lines, you know, the
red tape shit,
all the stuff they put on it. And then the fact that it's like, well, the grocery store 8 miles from the farm can't just go buy from the farm. It's got to go way up north, 8,000 miles away to a distribution center, be inspected, be graded, be shipped, and then sent back. The other thing that would blow your mind, if you ever had an opportunity to find a farm place and go to a packet house where they have like a bean line or a corn line or a celery line, that's where the field trucks come in and they unload the stuff from the field and they wash it, rinse it, sort it, pack it. Because of USDA grade number 1, USDA grade 2, not fit for human consumption, the bean line in Belgrade has a dump truck backed up to the back end of it. And when you harvest a 30-acre field of green beans, they probably fill up 2 dump trucks. You know what a dump truck looks like, right?
Yeah.
They probably fill up 2 dump trucks of green beans. That go and get spread to cows, pigs, chickens, or thrown in the landfill because they didn't pass the USDA grade. They were either too short. There's a thing called a broke bean eliminator on a bean line. So the USDA said the green bean to go to the grocery store has to be this long, has to have a tip, has to be this big around. And as you're going through the machine, it's a vibrator machine. When the green bean gets to that machine, if it's not big enough to cross that gap, it drops into the waste bin. We can
even though there's nothing wrong with it, it's just a little small.
Just a little shorter. We could end hunger in America, probably the whole world, if we did away with USDA grades. And we were like, hey, these are all vegetables. If the customers don't want to buy them, they don't have to buy them. If the farmer wants to sort them and have like a premier bag of green beans or like the second bag of green beans. And in sweet corn, if the corn's not at least 5.5 inches, it doesn't have less than a 1/4 inch tip at the top of like this undeveloped corn, you can't put it in the box. They'll reject the load because it doesn't make USDA grade. And there's a whole industry of scrappers, bootleggers, right, panhandlers, that go through and they pick the seconds and they sell them on the side of the road and they sell them, you know, at different Asian markets and backdoor markets, and they buy them and sell them in their neighborhoods because the USDA is involved in trying to control it, funnel it, get their money. And there's so much waste in agriculture because of that. It's disgusting. It's literally absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, that stuff, again, this is stuff that people just don't really think about. They don't know about. And it really blows my mind. It really blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's insane. We may have to do a couple more of these. There's just so much.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much we could get into.
Let me ask you this. So let's say that someone's living in a big city or whatever, and they're like, okay, I got a little bit of money. I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to go someplace that's not really highly populated. I'm going to buy an acre. I'm moving out of California. I want to do some farming. What kind of, so like. Okay, so for example, I live in Tahoe. I come down the mountain into Carson City. There's a ranch store. You could buy baby chickens. Okay, great. I could buy chickens, and well, what kind of chicken should I get? is this a genetically modified chicken? Where are they getting these chicks at? Like stuff like that. Like if I wanted to do some homesteading like that, where can a person start? What's a good feed to get? How do you know what's safe or not?
So you have to look at what the feed store you're going to, right? Is it like a generic Tractor Supply? Is it a mom and pop feed store?
Like Cow Ranch, Tractor Supply, yeah.
Yeah, everything in there, unless it's labeled non-GMO, no hormone, open pollinated seed, it's probably got GMO seed and GMO feed in it. But you have to understand that on some extent, to get started, you got to kind of like the supplements you're taking to detoxify your body. I'm sure, because I've taken some of the same things. They tell you, hey, don't take too many too fast, because if you detoxify too fast, you'll fuck up your body, right? You may pass out.
Sure.
So think about that as getting a clean lifestyle. If you're uneducated and you don't know anybody and you're not in the business, you may not be able to take that big leap. But anything's better than nothing. So buying your own chicken and then going and paying for, and you'll know by the price, GMO-free feed, all-natural feed that is actually all-natural, OP, open pollinated, it's going to be like twice the price of the bag of the generic stuff that's GMO. So you'll be able to tell, and when you cut the bags open, you'll be able to look at the feed and tell the feed's consistency different. All right? But just the fact of this, that if you raise your own chicken, and even if that chicken came from, there's not a lot out of the hatchery of where it's a scientific altered chicken. Most of the chickens have been bred over time. So like the White Rock chicken and the Cornish cross, those are chickens that they've taken over time and they've bred them together. And they've got a chicken now that produces itself. So we're kind of out of the Frankenstein end of the chicken deal. So if you go buy you a Cornish cross or a White Rock, those are meat chickens. You get your other chickens that lay eggs. So a layer, you're not going to be able to eat it until, I mean, you could eat it, but there ain't nothing there, right? But so if you eat it after it's through laying all of its eggs, it's going to be like shoe leather. So a layer chicken or a stewing chicken is going to be something that you put in a pot and you boil down, put in the pressure cooker, put it in a Dutch oven, cook it all day, and so you can eat it in a soup or a stew. You can't take a layer chicken and put it on the grill. You won't be able to eat it, right? You can't put it in the frying pan. You won't be able to eat it. So those are things people need to know. So first, identify, do you want to have eggs or do you want to have meat? And then you have to get your chickens. But you have to know, especially in Lake Tahoe, you're going to lose every one the first 3 days. You're going to buy
I wouldn't even consider it up here just because of the environment. It's really hard. It's like 6,300 something feet up.
Not just that. Raccoons.
I'm just saying in general, if somebody were to.
Yeah. I'm just trying to give like the whole idea. People don't understand. Yeah. There was a guy who came to our shop and he bought a cage from Tractor Supply and he bought 10 chickens. And in 3 days, the neighborhood raccoon that he didn't know he had pulled every chicken through the cage and ate their heads off. And he's like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, well, you either need hot wire, electric fence to keep the raccoon away, or you have to wrap the cage and you have to put a double wall up so the raccoon can't reach in and grab the chickens. Like you have to protect your livestock, you know? So there's things like that discourage people. They're like, I bought 10 chickens and they all got killed in a week, so I just won't do it no more. I felt so bad for getting them killed. So you got to do your homework, got to do your education before you get started. You got to know your seasons. God made seasons. I tell people, we got to follow them. We can't recreate seasons. So you got to know, going into the hard winter, don't try to start raising a bunch of baby chickens. They're going to freeze to death. Yeah. You know, chickens take like 10 weeks, 8 weeks before they feather in. So they're going to show up unless you buy them already feathered in. If you order chickens from the hatchery, and that's the best thing to do. Go online, Google hatchery. Call the hatchery and say, hey, I need 20 chickens. And they'll ship them to your front door in a box, right?
Wow.
But you got to keep them warm and safe until all the feathers grow in. So you got to have a heat lamp. You got to have a box. There's all kinds of things you have to do. You know, this whole free range, way out on the pasture idea is great once the animal is old enough to defend itself. But you got to understand, just like a baby, you and your wife have a baby, you know, you just don't send that baby out into traffic. You got to take care of the baby. You got to take care of small animals until they're old enough.
It's got to get to that point, yeah.
Right. So there is some containment time. And then, you know, knowing your feed, how much to put out. I recommend, there's a lot of sites, and I'm going to start doing more stuff like this on Between the Ribs where I'll do like an educational video on how to start.
I was just going to suggest that, because if you know, you're getting back to what you mentioned earlier about like the Industrial Revolution is both a blessing and a curse. You're such a knowledgeable guy where you've been through all of this stuff. And the best thing for people is to learn from someone else's mistakes, so you're not repeating them yourselves. I think that YouTube and the internet and stuff, it's a good tool and a resource to get information on how to do things. And I think if you were to incorporate your knowledge and put it into your channel that way, it'd be great for people to take advantage of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we got a lot of new things we're going to start coming out the next month, where we'll have them like flagged and identified as, you know, like how to start layer chickens or how to start meat chickens or how to raise your own pig.
That'd be awesome. That'd be great.
You know, how to grow your own vegetables. You know,
yeah.
And there's a lot with timing, and like I said, with seasons, you got to understand if you're going into the winter, you can't plant your squash and your cucumbers and your tomatoes. You got to plant your broccoli, your Brussels sprouts, your kale, your collard greens, and then knowing like this is something people don't know. Counting backwards, right? So if you live in, let's say where you live, like you know your first freeze day, right? Within a week, you know the first freeze day. I don't know if it's September, October, whatever day that is. So you have to go to that day, and then you got to count backwards, and you have to look and say, okay, well, the squash takes 42 days to grow. So if I plant it 38 days before the freeze day, I'm going to waste all that time growing it, and it's going to get a frost or a heavy freeze before I pick my squash. So you have to count backwards. So no matter if it's vegetables,
that's kind of like what we tried doing last year. Is like, okay, well, we have some seeds. We have such a short window to plant. Why don't we start germinating some of this stuff in the house? And when it's starting to go, hopefully by then we won't have freezing temperatures at night. We could get them in the ground.
Yes,
you know?
that's the other thing. If you live in a climate, you know, I mean, people grow food in Canada, right? If you live in a climate where you have a lot of freeze, people do that. They have a grow house or a grow shed with artificial lights to keep it warm. You get the plant started, you get them up, you know, 3 weeks, and then they're ready to go in the ground. As soon as the soil is warm, you put them in the ground, and now you don't waste 3 weeks of your warm weather trying to get them to germinate and come up. They're already germinated, they're already up. And then they go through the bloom cycle, the push, and you get a crop, harvest it, hopefully in time before you get an early frost or early freeze. So a lot of it's education. And then getting back to like the meat and all that stuff, and like my honey, everything I get comes from off the mountain at a local farm. And I've been there, I've seen their operation, I've seen what they do. It's Carson Valley meats. They're great. And the great thing about them too, I order online and I pick up from them at the feed store once a month. It'll be in a box. You know, it's great. Let me show you real quick what I got here. All right.
And the ground beef that I get from them, the burgers I make with the ground beef that I get from them, they grow. It plumps up when I cook it. It doesn't shriek. It doesn't shrink like the meat glue burning off. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
yeah, here's a brisket I got from them.
Yeah, that's the flat. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, beef brisket.
Trimmed out real well, yes.
How would you go about, what do you suggest as the best way I cook that thing?
That, me personally, I would have left a little more fat on there. I just like the fat on the brisket. But either smoke that really low, like at 240.
I got a smoker, low and slow.
Yeah, low and slow for like 9 to 12 hours. I'd put some juice in there just because they trimmed it really, really well. I would ask them next time to leave you a fat cap of like at least 1/4 to 1/2 inch. And then the reason you do that is you put the fat cap up, you can bring your temperature up high and brown it. And then you can let that fat render down through the meat, and it keeps the meat nice and moist. The other thing, if it's super cold, you don't want to be outside, you can roast it in the oven. Amy does a roasted brisket now. I wouldn't do that one for an hour because it's a little bit smaller. It looks like maybe a half. Maybe only do 30 minutes. But we do, what does that weigh, about 3 pounds?
2.3 pounds. 2.4.
Okay.
Almost 2.5 pounds.
So whatever the fattiest side is, have it up in a pan. Have the bottom of it. 450 for like 15 minutes. and then turn it down to 280, wrap it in aluminum foil, and let it roast in the oven for like 6 hours, 5.5, 6 hours, and then it'll just slice like butter. That's a good way inside, especially if it's cold. You don't want to be out there with the smoker. Yeah. But is that how they sell it to you, or did you ask it to be trimmed that way?
No, that's just how they gave it to me. I just tell them, okay, I want a brisket. I want some chicken or whatever. That's just how they package it and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, and that's a beautiful piece of meat. Me personally, if you have a way to communicate with them, I would ask, say, hey, next time on my brisket, can you leave about a 1/4 inch fat cap for me? Or I like a 1/2 inch, but 1/4 inch is fine. That just gives you a little. That gives you a little wiggle room to not dry it out. You know, if you don't cook it, if you don't cook it perfect, and you got a little fat on there, that fat can render down. Plus, it gives so much more flavor. I love it. Yeah. And if they're not doing anything with their cows, if they're really, really just clean, natural, I'm sure this time of year they're feeding hay up there. There ain't no grass growing up there right now, right? Y'all are cold. Yeah. So they're probably feeding some alfalfa or some O&A grasses. So the meat's a little leaner. It's not going to have as much fat on it. But I'm sure they would leave a little bit because they get to charge you for it. So I'm sure they'd leave a little fat on there if you ask for it. It'll change the brisket for you, the way it cooks.
Yeah, I'll bring that up to them next time I order it. So I'll just say, hey, if you got some fatty ones, keep those aside for me because I'll take those.
Yeah, well, it looks like they trimmed that, right?
Yeah.
That's a very well-trimmed brisket. So I would just ask them, flip it around. Yeah, that brisket's trimmed very, very well. I would just ask next time you order brisket, say, hey, is it possible to get a 1/4 inch trim fat or a 1/2 inch of fat cap? And they'll know what that means, and they'll either say yes or they'll say no. We trim all our briskets and we use the fat for something else. So
that I don't even go to the supermarket anymore, dude. I go straight to these guys.
That's awesome.
For everything.
I'm glad you have somebody up there. You know, not everybody can buy from us. Not everybody wants to buy from us. And I tell everybody, there's plenty of people. I need as many customers as I can get, but I don't have to have everybody. I'm not trying to feed the world. So, and all small farmers need people. We all need each other. Sure. So if you have a guy in your area that you can support, there's no reason to have me ship it from the other side of the country. Support a guy in your area. God takes care of me. I'll be fine. There's enough money for me and my family in our area. You know what I mean? Now, if you're out in California or Nevada or Michigan and you want me to ship to you, I'll be more than happy to. But don't feel obligated to be like, oh, I got to buy from this guy in Florida. Because every farmer in every town, we all need people right now. If you took all the small farmers that are out there and put us all together, we're not even as big as one of the big four, let alone all four of the big four. We can't compete. We can't compete with them. If we had like a small farmers union and we all got together, we still couldn't compete with the four big packers. There's just no way, you know, because they're worldwide. They're not just in America. You know, they're all over the world. They control everything. They're controlling beef coming across the border. Why do you think they don't want closed borders? It all goes back to, it's unbelievable how it's all intertwined. The food, the politics.
Everything's connected. Everything's connected. At the end of the day, everything is.
Yeah, the food, the politics, the legislation, the security, the lack of security, the pharmaceutical, it's just all intertwined.
Isn't it crazy?
It is. And people are like, well, how can we break the system? You can't. You got to get outside of it. The only way to do it is to get outside the system. If you can afford to find some land somewhere and buy an acre, 2 acres, 5 acres, the average family only needs a couple acres. Literally, if you had 2 acres and you put a house on it and you fenced it off, you could subsection it out and you could have a vegetable patch, a pig patch, some chickens, a couple goats, a cow, a dairy cow, and then you rotate things around, you know. So like when you get through harvesting your vegetables, the pigs go in first. And then behind the pigs, the chickens go in. And then behind the chickens, you plant grass. And then when the grass grows, the cows go in. You literally can rotate. Now, you wouldn't be able to have 100 animals, right? You got to be reasonable. You're going to have 3 or 4 cows and 4 or 5 pigs and maybe 50 chickens. So it's going to be just for you and your family. But you would never have to go to the store again. You could do everything on your own.
That's awesome.
You'd have to work every day. You know?
Yeah, but it's such a rewarding. It's rewarding work. And at the end of the day, you know, you accomplished something for you and your family for a healthier, longer life. and all that stuff. And Jonathan, thank you so much for your time today. I know you're really busy, dude. You got a lot going on. This means a lot to me. Again, where can people find you if they want to go to your store? Where can they go?
Organic Meats, the best way right now is to text us 407-402-5686 or go to Morris Family Farms. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Between the Ribs with Jonathan Morris on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, and we do a lot of videos that funnel you back to the shop. And then Morris Meats is a website we're working on. If you want to click on it, check it out. And as soon as it goes live, the live button will be on, and you'll be able to order and have it shipped straight to your front door.
And if they want to go to the store, walk into your store.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. I'm thinking of your people out west.
Everything.
We're in Lake Mary. We're on Country Club Road, 101 North Country Club Road in Lake Mary, Florida, Suite 127, underneath the big meat sign. We're right here in downtown Lake Mary, just north of Orlando, if you're familiar with Orlando, Florida.
Sweet. All right.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Jay. I appreciate you, buddy.
Dude, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. And thank you again for your time. And God bless. Thank you for this. I really appreciate it.
We'll have to get together again because we never went back to the toxins and the plastic that they put over the organic food. But
we'll have to do another one. We'll do another one, man.
We'll save that for another day.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
All right, Jonathan. Thanks, dude.
Yes, sir. See ya.
All right. See ya.
I don't know how to log out. I got to figure out how